I think I need to get like that Carlos Kremer or Bruce Buffer to just do an intro once and for all.
Yeah,
Because this is
please.
killing me. Give us the intro, bro.
Intro, bro. Asians don't do the intro.
Asians don't do the intro. Why with the Asian jokes? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, the master Richie Quan. A lot of questions coming your way. Everyone wants to know 1,000 things whenever you hear.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
I don't.
And one of the questions involves chef. Remember, I was telling you about this the
Yeah.
other day, so we got that to look forward to.
All right.
But thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man, teaching, learning, tea, whatever else.
Why are you always bringing up my tea?
No, I like it, man. I like it. So what's happening, Richie Quan?
Nothing. For me, it's the same. For
Nothing.
everyone else, it might be new.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but just working, man.
So we spoke not so long ago, obviously, about the cyborg escapade, having Chris here going through all of that, coming back with a world title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, just give us some insight. I know we did speak about it, but it's people are always like, oh, great interview. I just wish it was longer. Like I don't know what all they want us to cover, but anyway. Just give us insight. I mean, obviously, like the big thing was the South African team taking someone like Chris through her camp with you really steering the reins, and coming back with that world title.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually the second camp, so everyone thinks it's the first one.
Yeah.
The first one was actually UFC Canada in Edmonton with Spencer, and this is obviously the second camp. So second camp was way better. Obviously, I covered that a little bit in terms of the first and second camp and how they were totally different, black and white. Second camp, we had a great connection, understanding of each other and methodologies and the training and what I like, what she likes, and the coach athlete vibe was always way better. And understanding of each other was way better. She also came back in much better shape. Her last fight, when she came to me, she had been not training for 3 months, so it was getting her in shape and all of that, confidence, first fight, all of that up. So the second fight was way better, and we did basically the whole camp in South Africa, and then the last 3 weeks we flew over, we headed over there, and yeah, it's a different vibe there with her. Like,
Yeah.
here she's no one really knows who she is, and if they do, it's kind of like not a big deal. But that side, we literally flew in, we got at baggage control, and there was people with cameras interviewing her. Like that's the vibe that side.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, she Chris has a beautiful little like private gym. That we used, and we basically did our 2 sessions there. She's got a great sprinting coach and conditioning coach out there as well. And we just finished it off. We had who was out there? We had Boyd, we had Martin, we had Don, we had Warren, and yeah, I mean, going into fight week, we had to head up to LA because the camp was done in Huntskin Beach, and we went up to LA. For the fight week, stayed in Inglewood, yeah, because the fight was at the famous Forum.
Yeah.
And yeah, we like met a whole lot of good people there. So for my first time in Bellator, but that was like the kind of last on my list. Now I've hit all major promotions, and yeah, like main card event, you get different treatments, you see different things, you understand more, and yeah, weigh-ins was great. Bellator's just an amazing promotion as well. They're very professional. Yeah, they get things done. And yeah, fight night was unbelievable. Obviously waiting for the main event takes some time, but we only had to get there later, so we didn't actually wait that long. I think we were backstage for about 2 hours. Warm-ups went really well. We had obviously something that she's never done, but timed and practiced the warm-up. So she's not warming up an hour and a half before, and she really enjoyed that. And yeah, when she got out there, she's like went to game plan. Like the whole game plan against Julia Budd was to break her down, leg kicks and body shots. and all the combinations that we had rehearsed and just built into Chris was body leg head non-stop, or head body leg, and really good wrestling defense, because I knew, or I actually thought Julia was going to start wrestling from the get-go,
Sure.
which she actually just wanted to test out her striking, which didn't go too well for her. And it was funny, I think it was in round 2, in the corner, like Chris was obsessing about the body shot. So if you see the first 10 seconds of the fight, she threw 3 straight right hands all to the body and landed all. And she just was obsessing. She wouldn't hit anywhere else but the body and leg. So I think she came out round 3, and then she started putting more pressure on the head, and which opened up the body more. And round 4, in the whole camp we were just saying 4 and 5 is her best rounds. Actually, that's when she actually is comfortable. She's blown out that first wind, and she can really let go. And I told her in the corners, your best round, let's go, and focus on that body shot. And she came out and she did what she did. She finished the fight with that right hand to the body. Obviously a massive flurry, but yeah.
Nice. Very nice. There was a couple of things in there that I wanted to ask you about. You spoke about the relationship between a fighter and a coach, and there's a couple of things that it doesn't ignite automatically in a lot of cases. Sometimes it ignites off the bat. Sometimes it needs like a long brew.
Yeah.
How much of a part did that play between you and Chris into like transforming the relationship, to just try and understand each other a bit better? Like, I mean, it's someone you've never really worked with. It's
yeah, I mean, that is number one.
Yeah.
And that's not just with Chris. That's with all athletes. All coaches need to understand that a relationship between the fighter and the athlete is built on trust. If the athlete trusts the fighter, if the athlete trusts the coach can then put in more because of the trust.
Sure.
And vice versa. And that trust is built on a lot of things that we can go into. But without that trust, it's nothing, basically. In my view, you can't really add value to an athlete without trust. And if you look at all major sporting teams, All Blacks, and in NBA, you read any of their bibliographies, it's all about trust and tradition. And yeah, I mean, for me, the hardest thing was Chris's first camp. She had come off a first loss after 13 years, the greatest and most scariest badass female fighter ever, to wet her feet in a new environment. Different culture, different training methods. She didn't know who I was. We didn't have that trust, and also trying to figure out what she likes and what I like in terms of a training camp, and how to fix problems together, and where she is in terms of her mindset for fight, and what ticks her and what doesn't tick her, and what can ultimately, like for instance, coach language. How do I get a technique across to her as quick as possible? What does she understand? What wording do I need to use, and so forth. And all of this plays the biggest role. And that first camp was insane, because that's what the camp was about.
Yeah.
It was like an introduction
to
each other.
It was almost like she arrived, kicked the door down, and she was like, okay, cool, I'm here.
Yeah.
Coach me.
Do some magic. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's just like, here's some magic dust and make me better. And I was just, I had like 3 or 4 months with her, which is not a lot of time. It's a lot of guys that come to me from other camps often request 6 months to a year for me to actually develop them into a new athlete.
Sure.
So yeah, it was kind of like shooting in the dark with her, and just did what I had to in terms of what I was presented, and the opponent that she was given was no chump.
Yeah.
She was 8-0, 100% takedown rate, amazing back control and finish rear naked choke submission rate, highly rated from Invictus. And it was a bit weird, like scary in a way, because I was put on the spot straight away.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to do this or you're not going to do this?
This is something we spoke about briefly, the pressures of that as a coach. Like,
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask is, did you encounter like added pressures, being in that position, being in the position that you are in, as you know, you're obviously considered the greatest coach that Africa's ever seen, and then being put onto that stage, and it's kind of like, okay, not that you have to prove anything to anybody, but just like, I think your caption was "Believe me now."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was almost to like kind of prove to yourself in a way, but also to like show the world, like, I'm not, this is not a hoax, this is not a, there's no tricks here, like we're doing good work.
My whole life I've been put down. My whole life I haven't been, like, people don't believe what I had to say. And not saying that that's a wrong thing. Everyone has to prove themselves.
Sure.
And if you see how I spoke and articles that I spoke about 8 years ago in like Fighters Only magazine and stuff, everything that I said then has come true, or already. And I've traveled all over the world. I've trained with some of the best athletes and some of the best coaches. I've been everywhere. There's not a place that I haven't really been to. And I've stepped on mats with world champions in multiple sports, not just mixed martial arts. So I know the mindsets, how they train, what makes them champions, and all. And for me, there's no difference. There's no difference what I'm putting in my gym in Sunninghill. It's actually better because I'm redefining it. I'm putting science in it. I'm educating myself every day, which a lot of coaches don't. And I believe in my system because I compare that to the rest of the world. And I've seen the results when we go over there. It's just about, how do you say, without offending people, it's more about
the PC version.
Yeah, people always want to think they know what they're saying, but actually have no idea. They aren't educated on the topic, and when people watch fights, it's all about, who's the favorite then on that card, not what they've done in the past or what they will do in the future. And it's all about proving everything. And I've proved a lot in South Africa, and I knew by proving in South Africa that would transition to the international world. A lot of doubters out there, but that's why I said, believe me now.
Believe me now. I think that should be a hashtag going forward. Do me a favor. While on Instagram, I just thought about something. Go to, I think, MMA Junkie. Did you watch the fights on the weekend?
To be honest, I watched a few, but they were so horrible that I just rather went back to studying.
I tell you
and
why.
I watched actually good fights.
On the Instagram, boy, on the Instagram. There's a little clip that they posted there. As soon as I heard this, it made me think of you. Did you hear the corner advice?
From which fight? Diego
from
Sanchez.
Diego Sanchez.
Listen.
There's obviously that you can kind of get what he's trying to say to him, but
not
that
really,
some of the
because
craziest cornering you've ever heard.
I watched the first round of that fight before.
I think that one, yeah, dude.
I stopped wasting my time and.
For sure, don't kick us off.
Please don't be loud. Yo.
Get that volume, son.
Yeah, let's smash the volume.
Okay, hit play.
5 recovery breaths. 5 recovery breaths.
It's the best thing ever.
Sip the water. Do your thing. Good. 5 recovery breaths. In the nose, out the mouth. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. You are stopping your motion. Do not wait to see your work. I need forward pressure. I need you to get off the line before you attack. Off the line before you attack. V drill. V drill. Think of the shadow. Shadow. I need you to get in.
He's crazy.
Get in, get behind. If it gets tight, get sticky, take him to the ground. Get on top. Give me some ride time. Give me some ground and pound.
You can stop it there. It's just the second round. It's a bit crazy.
So like, listening to that, it's not as crazy as like, I think just the way he's saying it. You know, he's trying to get like, for instance, like breathing techniques in, which a lot of fighters don't do and a lot of coaches don't do. So I mean, he was like, a technique of breathing needs to be implemented in the corner to bring the heart rate down as quick as possible, and there's actual techniques of doing it. So I give him that, but he wasn't really doing it. And I think it's just his wording he was using, you know. I mean,
so it's obviously like that he's obviously talking about like a V drill, and he's like saying get sticky, obviously, to like stay tight in the wrestling and get the takedown. And, but it made me think, because I was like, okay, everyone's being a bit harsh on this dude, like saying he's talking cock, but there's obviously him and Diego have figured this little thing out, but there's no real advice in that corner. And it's one of the things that I've noticed about your team especially. And I must be honest, I've noticed one or two other guys doing really, really good cornering work at the EFC lately. But I think you guys were the kings of that. You've always been the kings of that. Yeah. I remember sitting in Abu Dhabi on top of you guys, and I could hear JP clearly barking instructions at Don, but like clear as day from where I was. You know what I mean? Like it was... And when I saw that, it made me think of you, like, you must be cringing in your seat listening to this guy.
Believe me, that's not the first nor the last time I cringe at listening to corners. Because 90% of the time you listen to corners, you cringe.
Yeah. I do love it though.
What are some of the EFC classics? There's Get Up.
Yeah, Get Up.
Hit
Knee.
Hit him.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Hit him.
That's a great one.
Knee. Yeah. Get Up is...
And I like Escape.
Yeah, Escape.
That's a great
Escape.
one.
1 minute, you got to get up now.
Yeah. Get up. No, escape and then get up. Okay, that's great advice. How do I do that?
I do love those.
Yeah.
They are very entertaining. I must be honest. There was at the last event of the year, or the one before, I think it was what's his face, Brendan Groenewald. Okay, he's loud. I think he's generally just like quite loud, but he was like really. It was like one of the first times I've actually stopped the UFC and gone like, well, fuck it, to actually
He's being helpful.
handing out some advice. You know what I mean?
I think he tried to teach that guy jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think it was
mid-round.
his first jiu-jitsu lesson in the fight.
Well, from what I heard later on, he wasn't even that guy's coach. He just asked to sit in his corner.
Yeah, that's always entertaining.
No, I'm not surprised.
Wasn't there also one of the events recently? There were two dudes from the same camp fighting each other, and they had to like just borrow somebody else. Maybe it was that fight. Something weird like
Some
that.
crazy stuff that happens. I got to get the fight done though.
What I wanted to ask you, you mentioned your old articles and how things have come true. One of the things that you and Chef spoke about religiously was the MMA generations.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, you guys said the concern was always the fourth. Where is it going to come from?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are now.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that generation and the current state of MMA going forward from here? I mean, obviously you've got a nice young crop of amateurs. I've seen there's a couple of gyms around town. They've got a decent crop. It seems there are segments of MMA SA that are really starting to prop up and really starting to try to get this amateur scene run a little bit better. But obviously against hitting brick walls and politics and cuck.
The generation, I think, now compared to a year ago is better.
Yeah.
Like, I am seeing more interest in the mixed martial arts of the amateur scenes and more development in it. I am seeing it. So, compared to a year ago, it has improved. But, yeah, I mean, the first generation made the noise, locally. The second generation is making the noise internationally, and I think either the third or the fourth will be that one as well. For instance, if you read John Canavar's book, I think Connor is fourth generation. So that's what I mean, is that the country, the sport in the country, the coaches and the athletes, regardless of what they want to think, have to go through these things. To get to a certain point where there will be a standout. Our second generation, or my second generation, is doing really well. I mean, Don Madge is 2-0 in the UFC. I've got guys like JP that will be signing in the UFC. He's on that side. I've got Chad. I've got a whole lot of guys that are actually, internationally doing well. And I'm only on my second generation, and I've got my first world champion. So from my side, I think that's pretty good for the second generation. But it's really in the third and the fourth where I think we're gonna see
ramp up the volume.
Ramp up the volume. And in terms of now, more amateur events have been added, and I'm seeing there's much more opportunities to fight once a month, twice a month, which is amazing. That's what we need. Never mind the politics behind all of that stuff, but guys are able to fight now, where it wasn't like that. When it goes to pro, unfortunately, we only have one really good pro event here, which limits things to a certain degree. But, the guys can still get in good fights and get experience and build their name and understand what the business of mixed martial arts is as well. So, I do think the future does look bright, I think, to a certain degree and where you are. But you don't see guys going like, oh, I want to be a mixed martial arts amateur, or I want to be a mixed martial arts pro, I want to go to UFC. You don't see that as much as it was from the first and second generation. Yeah.
Sure. I hear you.
I think also a lot of people now have seen the journey of mixed martial arts from amateur to the local pro, and in trying to get into the international arena. And for us, we are in the hardest continent in the world to do mixed martial arts professionally and get overseas.
Yeah, I think people struggle to understand that concept of geographically just how fucked we are here. Like, people just don't understand it. Like, I know, like, Africa's on the rise, but all of these Africans are not here in Africa. They're like just a 2-hour flight away from Las Vegas or whatever, so it's,
although I think Don is the only South African fighting out of Africa in the UFC.
110%.
Yeah.
Haters will say Delcha.
And Delcha.
Yeah, but he's
And
not
Delcha,
South African,
and Delcha.
This is the argument.
Okay.
But
they're the only
exactly.
two Africans
Yeah.
fighting out of Africa.
Yeah.
Those other guys are all either African born and moved overseas when they were 2.
Yeah.
Or Africans.
Some of them none, bro. Don't you dare discredit them.
Yeah.
Some of them can still speak the language, dog. It means they're still fresh in their blood.
Yeah.
The difference is to that argument is that they're not being trained out of South Africa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're living in the first world and having first world problems and first world luxuries.
Remember, whatever country you're training in, you're giving that country power.
Yeah.
If Usman was training in Nigeria and winning UFC gold, that country would benefit a hell of a lot in terms of the sport. So, with our guys training here and competing and succeeding, that brings a lot of positivity back to our country.
So when we were in Abu Dhabi, it was quite strange. It was almost like a lot of people, as the South African unit that was there, a lot of people knew who we were and who you guys were and why I was there, you know what I mean? So it was like, we've gone from very unknown to known, you know what I mean? And you guys have led the way on that. And I don't think people realize how hard it's been, how hard it is, and how hard it will be to use South Africa as a launchpad until such a time that something comes here, like the UFC comes to South Africa or Africa. Like if you look online, for example, there's like UFC Europe, UFC Russia, UFC New Zealand, UFC Arabia. There's no UFC South Africa. You know what I mean? So it's still...
You look at every continent that the UFC goes to and has an event, eventually that country blows up with the sport. New Zealand now is kicking off with City Kickboxing, has 2 champions right now, and they've been to Australia, New Zealand, had events, had tough reality shows. So You know, that brings faith and positivity into the people there that then want to do the sport, that see the goal in the future. Here, no one's really seeing anything yet. You know, there's one or two guys that are doing really well and going overseas, but there's no real like honeypot yet, you know, where people can actually physically see an event and understand what's going down. Plus, the other thing for us, which is a massive reality, which I've spoken about, but people don't really take seriously, is visas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking visas are a big problem.
It's a massive thing. You know, we have, unfortunately, really good fighters, but don't have a passport or are illegal immigrants. The other thing is, you have a fighter, and it's happened to me, where a high-level fighter in my camp was offered a UFC fight, but had to get to the country in 2 weeks. But the visa takes 3 weeks. And you say you say no to the UFC, they say, okay, thank you. That's your chance. That's your chance done. You know, and what I mean by visas is an African trying to get a visa in Europe and the US is different from a European or an Asian individual trying to do that, you know. Plus, when you're getting visas, the country wants to know that you're a little bit secured and you have, you know, maybe a pay slip and this, and, you know, our fighters are not, don't really have that, you know. A lot of them are illegal. A lot of them don't have passports and never had to have a passport. So they're winning, and getting massive recognition here, and then they need the opportunity, and the opportunity comes, but they got to leave in 3 weeks. This becomes a problem. Yeah,
it's super tough.
And that's happening to some of our well-known athletes, and that's why they haven't gone over.
So Home Affairs, eh? Forget Monster. Home Affairs, hit us up.
Yeah.
Yeah. With regards to, I mean, we're witnessing this African movement now, and I think South Africa obviously has a lot of talent. Do you think the EFC is going to be that sort of platform that's really going to showcase us? Or do you think, I mean, we know, we're starting to hear stories of a couple of big international promotions coming out this year. We've seen Brave come. There's the possibility of a few others coming this year. Do you think those sort of shows are going to be our launch pads more than that?
Listen, EFC has done an amazing job, is doing an amazing job. They by themselves in this country doing what no one else wanted to do or has done, you know, and they have launched a lot of people's careers, including myself. Yeah. Including nearly everyone here. They've given the opportunities to a lot of people. But saying that as well, in the US, you have 10 promotions doing that. And giving, the more opportunities you give, the easier it's going to get. And the more opportunities the athlete will have. So if I'm living in the US, I've got 10 events, naming one maybe LFA.
Yeah.
And that is like an EFC. You know, you do well in LFA, you get a UFC contract. You do well in EFC, you can be launched into any big promotion out there as well. But if we had 5 or 6 EFCs, you would have more opportunities as well.
Or do you think, like, so for those of you that don't know, LFA, for example, has, I think they've had about 238, 240 fighters go from LFA to UFC. Yeah. The other side, Cage Warriors, has done like 180 or something like that. So there's a direct feeder system. Yeah. So I know a lot of the Europeans here were kind of getting the advice, you know, don't go to the EFC. Rather try get into Cage Warriors. That's going to be your direct route to the UFC.
100%. I mean, if I was in the US or Europe, it's a no-brainer to fight in an organization that you know has a direct link to the UFC, that literally just goes, oh, you're a champion, here's a UFC contract. Yeah. Of course, that's a no-brainer.
Sure.
You know, unfortunately in South Africa we don't have that yet.
So my question to you is, do you think the EFC needs that, or the EFC is trying to be that launch pad?
I do think EFC has been trying to be that. But like I said, we're in Africa. Yeah. There's a lot of things that play into our disadvantage here, including for the EFC. So they have been trying to be that medium between athletes and large promotions. And I think they've done the best that they can do and are doing the best they can do. I do think they get a lot of slack for not maybe pushing enough of the first and second generation overseas, and there might be some good examples and bad examples. But at the end of the day, like, why is everyone only putting all their eggs in one basket and then blaming that individual, like the EFC? Oh, well, I've done this and now you haven't done this and you're supposed to take me there. Like, fight, win, and spread your wings. Travel overseas, you know, take the risk of discussing with your promotions, be it in our country, EFC, of what is the path for me to get there, and they might be able to, you know, create that path for you.
Sure.
But if you also don't tick a lot of the boxes for them, they know that, well, unfortunately, bro, yeah, everyone has a dream to be in the UFC, but you're not one of those.
Yeah.
That's the hard truth.
Sure.
Just because you knocking out guys here for 10,000 Rand against Joe nobody doesn't mean that they believe that you're going to do well on that side.
Yeah.
You know, they got to test the waters, because if they take a fighter overseas, their reputation's online as well. So now if that fighter fails, then people look at the EFC as like, well, you guys...
It's also a big money risk though.
100%.
So people don't understand, like, you've got to fly someone from South Africa. It's not cheap, you know what I mean? And you've got to fly to Cornerman, you've got to do all of this, and it's a lot of investment into a lot of unknown, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, a lot of guys here get offended when you say, look, I'm not saying we've got a lot of talented athletes, but unfortunately for them, who they've beat and what's like on their record is not doing them any favors, because they're probably way better than what their record's suggesting, you know what I'm saying? But unfortunately in South Africa, you have to have like either tick all the boxes, like you
in
say.
South Africa, you got to tick all the boxes. In
Yeah.
Africa, you got to tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
If you don't tick all the boxes, you are not going that side. It's just that's how it is.
So that being said, in your experience and from like an objective outlook, what do you think is the number one mistake that our athletes are making in South Africa?
I believe majority of the athletes here fight just to be on super sport. I think majority of the fighters here don't understand the business of mixed martial arts. They don't understand their sport, and also I think a lot of them think they're special. And unfortunately, the reality is no one here is special. You have to be really special to stick out. And those guys that are sticking out are the ones that are now overseas. You have to be super special, because a promotion, a big promotion overseas, be it Asia, be it Europe, be it America, they got to look at this guy. They've got 10,000 fighters to choose from in their country. So why must they spend money on bringing a guy from Africa? Well, you got to tick the boxes. You have to be more special than the 10,000 guys that they already have in their backyard.
Crazy.
Unfortunately, a lot of guys here still think they're special, and they needed special treatment, and you know they are the, you know, everything. So without ticking the boxes. So I think once people travel more and experience more about life, about MMA, about training, about what's actually out there, you know, because like I said, the biggest irritation I have is people think they know, but they don't.
So here's an example. And you know, like I say, unfortunately, people get very upset if you say certain things about, you know, about what they should have done, about the career, what they could do. Look, I'm looking from my point of view. It's just my opinion. Let's take, for example, a guy like Iga Cabeza. Do you think Iga Cabeza is a perfect example of a guy, in my opinion, instead of like, you know, working on sponsors and that, instead of trying to do X, Y, Z, why not try and get your sponsors to pay for you to go to ATT for 6 weeks, or go to Henry Hoof for 6 weeks, or Jackson's or whatever, to go be part of a mega camp to get that exposure to like what that feels like. I mean, you guys did it. You liked some stuff. You didn't like some stuff. You saw where you fit in. You saw
what you're saying, we've done since the beginning.
Yeah.
For the last 12 years.
Yeah, I remember videos of you guys training out at TriStar with like.
We've been to literally every
With Soldier Boy,
mega camp there is. The thing is exactly that, and it's not necessarily to go and get better training.
Yeah.
Okay, depending where you are, but it's to go and understand
Exactly.
what it takes, also who to meet, because knowing the right person in the sport and in life and in any business is a big thing.
Yeah.
If Sean Shelby was my best mate, I would just call him and I could get 10 contracts now.
Or you could just tag him on Instagram and surely he'll
100%.
he'll see it.
100%. Like it's about going over there and also creating relationships.
100%.
With coaches, with high-level athletes, and with managers. And then from those experiences, understanding what your next step is to get to your goal. But everyone's too scared to do it. Everyone's too scared to take the risk.
It's the same thing. It's the same. People don't actually like. They're too scared to find out. They're like, "Fuck! What if I go to TriStar and get mollywopped every day?"
Well,
in the
you
gym?
see the
know what I'm
same
saying?
thing. You see the same thing here.
Yeah.
Guys are petrified to go roll or to go train at another gym. They'd rather them they're happy to stay where they
Because
are.
they don't want to know that they're cuck, bro. That's it. They don't want to know that they're cuck. Don't want to be like, "Fuck! What if I go there?" You know what I mean? Like someone like me actually seeks it out because I like get to a point where I'm like, something's not right here. Like I need to go, and then you go to another gym. And then what you suspected was right, because now you're getting fucking handled.
But
You're
you
like,
see,
okay, well, now I'm here, so now I know where I am.
Even on that aspect, if you're going to the US for that reason, it's still wrong. You should be going to the US not to basically only test your skills. That should be the last on the list. You should be going to the US to understand the sport and know what your next step is. That is the ultimate box to tick, because if you don't know what to do and what's your next step to improve your career and improve your life, then you're just taking fights for no reason. If you don't know you're going to fight this guy to escalate you to this point, then what's actually that point of fighting that guy? But in this country, it's more about, I want to fight this guy for this paycheck. It's not fighting this guy to excel me to a certain position.
Yeah, that's why I quite liked the route that a guy like Temba's trying to take. You can see where he's trying to go and what he's trying to do. He's in a tough situation where he wants to get to the UFC and he's kind of hoping to find that fight here that's going to escalate him to that point. Unfortunately, I just don't think there is that fight for him here. You know what I mean? There are one or two that you can think of, but it's not like in his vision. So when he spoke about Lyle Karam, he's like, Lyle Karam's 6-0. He comes from an international gym. Lachlan Giles, there's a connection there. If I can beat this guy, that puts me a little bit higher up the edge. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And he was quite honest in the way they were talking about Sean DeLange, and they're like, yeah, cool, this guy, maybe he's a contender, but what has he really done, kind of thing.
He understands the business of MMA,
Yeah.
and that's why he's doing the right things to excel him and his life to the right direction.
Sure.
And that's a perfect example. The way he speaks now, the way he's presenting himself, who he's choosing, the fights he's winning, how he's winning, is all directing him in the right direction that he's already foreseen. So, that's a perfect example. And, if he keeps on going, then anyone that keeps on going in that direction with the right guidance is going to get to their destination. So
100%. Talking of the business of MMA, what do you make of the talk of the town in the EFC at the moment with a guy like James Dalton?
I think it's always a great, like you see it on Bellator, you see it on KSW.
Second and third biggest promotions in the world.
The Zone's doing it. Getting
UFC
massive.
have done it.
Yes, UFC has done it. Getting just big names. Onto the card. For people just to create excitement.
And let us not forget AKA.
Yes, AKA. And I think it's great for the sport to a certain degree.
This is where I draw the line, though.
Yeah.
Because, AKA maybe goes to Fight Club on a Saturday morning
once a week.
Hit some pads.
Yeah.
It's a different fucking story when you've
But
got to get in there with a
don't you
killer,
know,
dude.
This is what I mean. Is the biggest lies that allows you to tell yourself. Guys think they hit pads and now they can spar.
Yeah, I used to think I was a fucking machine on pads, bro.
Yeah. No, I think you gotta see it in the promotion's view.
Yeah.
And then you gotta see it in the athlete's view. For instance, the thing that irritates me the most is like that Logan Paul. You know, earning like $3 million on his second boxing, like I wouldn't even call it a fight. It's like a display that they did.
But like Logan Paul can at least box to some degree.
It doesn't
You know
matter.
what I mean?
Who
Like,
the
he's
hell
trained.
is that guy? Then you got guys on this side of the world. They're training their butts off 3 times a week. You know, fighting and not even getting close to that money. And you have some just like not even super. He's a YouTube celebrity. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what
He's
a
a
YouTube celebrity
YouTuber,
is.
whatever
That's
means.
getting that money. Now that pisses me off.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know.
If
but
a guy like James
he's doing
Dalton,
his thing.
his goal is that he would like to fight. If he wants to step into a professional arena with a high-level athlete, that's at his own risk.
Yeah.
It would be smart for him if he wanted to actually test the waters to go an amateur event and get into an amateur fight. And then, but you know, at this level, if he signs that contract with him, they'll probably give him a guy that
A winnable fight.
yeah, would be on his level.
Who do you
I
think
would
will be a winnable fight, Rock?
No comment.
I just say it, bro. I'm not scared. So, like we were saying, for example, like a guy like Gordon Rittman.
Yeah.
Because obviously to Gordon Rittman's fans, are going to be like, he's going to beat the snot out of Bullet, the famous Bullet. But in like a lot of people's minds, be like, maybe purple belt, maybe he's got a good takedown, maybe he's got a good submission
I
game.
think that fight would be a good fight then, And it's
But
good
he's
for-
also Gordon Rittman's not gonna wrestle his face off. You know what I mean?
No, no way in hell.
It makes a lot of
he's
sense.
not going to
yeah.
tap him.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's good for the sport for a guy like that. Promoting our sport.
Sure.
More people talk about it, which means more eyes on the sport.
Yeah, exactly. And that right there is the absolute key to remember in all of this, is that you want the sport to survive in Africa, especially in South Africa. You want the biggest promotion to survive. They're coming up with a plan. Like, tip your hat to them. Like, okay, we're thinking out the box now, guys. Yeah. Because this other shit hasn't obviously been working too well lately. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
there's been like a definite like thinning in the divisions, right? Because obviously that next generation of amateurs has taken just that little bit longer to come forward.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That we in each division right now in our pro rankings is maybe like 10 guys.
Yeah.
Maybe. And other promotions have maybe 80 guys.
Yeah.
And it's more about that next generation of amateurs now exploding and then flowing straight into the pro division, where one division gets a hit of 20 new athletes. And the more athletes you have in each division, the more the matchmaker has to play around it. At the end of the day, if you only have 10 guys, how many shots can you really
And there seems to be a definite gap, like especially at the pros at the moment. There's like if you look at some of the amateur fights, like some of the guys fighting now, like even the bantamweight and featherweight division, there's like a stack of great fights you can go watch. Where in the pro division, like your champion or top 2 or 3 are so far ahead of everybody else. Like you can't. There's a big skill difference.
The other thing is like, also, does the promotion just sign anyone? The other thing. And then you've got some clown that's in the ring, running around, putting the worst display of mixed martial arts on Super Sport, and people going, what the hell is this? This is
I think
ridiculous.
we checked this out at a stage a while ago. Like the EFC numbers in Super Sport are not. It is also competing with the UFC to some degree, where the thing in South Africa is that you have a lot of MMA fans that don't give a shit about the UFC. That's the reality. There's a lot of them. And I think there was a patch where, for whatever reason, the EFC lost a lot of fans. There was a patch where, for whatever reason, the EFC lost a lot of fans. So they've gone that way. So super sport, the numbers, from what I understand, are not great. The biggest numbers are SABC. And that's where the market is. And from here into Africa, it's just half. A guy like AKA, I'm going to be the first to say, I'm going to contradict myself. James Small, I'm all in. You know what I mean? He's obviously got some experience. He's an athlete. He's competed at the highest level of sport. Yeah, he's a purple belt in America hacking. Apparently, he's been doing boxing his entire life, so it's not going to be something that's completely foreign to him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's a picture of him with his purple belt somewhere, maybe on Facebook. And he's also backed by that nutrition company. Yeah, he loves cats. I mean, that seems perfect. You know what I'm saying? So there's something there. It's not going to be completely strange to him. He can maybe win a fight in the UFC.
He comes from a history of contact sport and has been in
and beating the snot out of people at bars.
Violent encounters, you know? How many violent encounters does AKA does he actually understand violence? You know what I mean? Like James Dalton does he actually understand violence in hostile environments? So yeah, he's not going to get in there and have stage fright. Yeah, he's not.
But you know, at the same time, I think a guy like AKA, if you can get him almost like invested into MMA, that he's kind of there, maybe play with the idea of having a fight, it's going to attract new people. You know what I'm saying? These people are obviously famous, but I do like the names being thrown out there.
Did you check someone?
Drickus Duplessis versus James Dalton.
Donovan Hawkey. Did you check someone?
Drickus Duplessis. Donovan Hawkey.
Donovan Hawkey. Just lifted weights for Donovan Hawkey.
Yeah.
5 years.
Just lifted weights for one of those baked boosties back. Like, let's not get we're all in, but let's just not get crazy. Let's stick to like Gordon Ruttman, maybe Dallas Jacoby. Michiel Opperman even, I'm not too crazy at that. Dude, I've seen Michiel Opperman like training with guys at CIT. Dude, I've seen that dude does not play.
He's a tough boy, man.
He does not
play.
play.
He's guy in the EFC since the
He does not fucking play.
I think he's got 3 leg knee injuries, not himself. He's given other people.
Dude, he's a horse chiropractor. Just think about that.
He's given other people.
How do you click a horse's back, mate? Just think about that for a second. How would you click a horse's back? Or if the horse needs a little hip adjustment, grab it by the leg. I guarantee you now, he fucking tackles those horses straight down, straight in the night, on the way.
I would believe that.
Hey, damn straight, bro. Like, do you check what I was? I'm just gonna head kick it, don't worry.
He was part of that CRT, like, golden age.
He was part of that CRT,
like, golden age.
Rumor has it he's on his way back. September.
Well, he's on that list. So.
September, it's up, bro.
Well, he's on that list. We got a whole bunch of guys coming with
September, it's up, bro. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you guys? Do you think the loss of the promotion that fights really had like a backlog effect on MMA?
I think it actually spawned like Anna and I think it actually spawned like Anna, and I think it kind of spawned those new ones, you know.
I mean, the more the better.
I think it kind of
spawned those new ones, you know. Not one, not two, not three. The more the better. As many
I would have, yeah, exactly. I would have liked fights to still be around with Anna, with
for sure. I don't understand why there isn't 6, 7, 8, 10 amateur events, 3 or 4 pro events. You know, the more the better, because it's going to grow the sport.
Sure.
Well, I know this was on a podcast like 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, I think you did. I don't know if it was with you. But you were talking about more amateur MMA tournaments. I think that would, where you get like 2, 3 fights on a weekend. I think that would work.
Well, that's where I'm actually set up. That's where they
look at Sambo
set up.
That would work.
That's where I'm actually set up. That's where they
look at Sambo.
Exactly.
So guys are like, you know, like the Russians are coming with between 100 and 300 fights. And then starting their mixed martial arts amateur career, and then they're getting what, mixed martial arts 20, 25 amateur fights in, and then going pro. That's a lot of knowledge of understanding our sport before they even hit a big league.
True. Our guys are often in a rush. I mean, I do think the financial state of the UFC is maybe going to slow that rush down. Be like, not going to be too much of a rush anymore. Be like, well, I'm not going to be in a match right now.
People, I'm the first to admit that people are always in a rush when you don't know. You know, when in the beginning, when you first see that first UFC contract, you know, of course, you're going to rush towards anything that is good if you don't understand it. Now that I've run down that road, I understand that if this individual got a UFC contract, I would say no, we need X amount of fights, or you need to do X amount of things first before you sign on that dotted line for that big event. But it's human nature to run towards something that is good.
It's human nature to run towards
man,
something that is good.
it's a crazy place for MMA.
Yeah, man, it's a
deep dark jungles of South Africa. But I think we've like. I think this year is going to be an interesting year.
I think we've like
in terms of
this year is going to be an interesting year.
The EFC, what happens with
in terms of
RFN and Alpha and Omega going to become like two big amateur promotions. Are we going to see another amateur promotion pop up? The possibilities of a couple of big international promotions coming out here, which is quite exciting. I think things are ramping up, and it's just to kind of see how we think.
Yeah, that's why I said like
ramping up, and it's just
my views a year ago to now.
Yeah, that's why I said like
it's changed because it
my
has
views
changed.
a year ago.
And in a year from now, if it's changed, my view will change again. Because it's not, I'm not putting my decision because of my emotional ideas. No, right now it's looking good. There's more amateur fights. There's more pro events coming. There's EFC putting back on more fights, and there's more opportunities for guys that are going overseas because now the world has noticed some South African fights. So now people are getting the opportunity to send a CV out or ask a promotion like Brazil or this person or that person, can I be on your card? And they actually look at you now, where before they wouldn't.
And the cool thing now is like obviously I won't mention a promotion. Like, even I'm starting to get messages about a promotion asking about a broad spectrum of fighters. Like, how's this person? What's the feeling on this person? What about that person? What about this person? Which guys could you match up in this division? Which do you think makes sense? So if I'm getting asked those questions, it means that we're starting to get that outreach, you know what I mean? Which is pretty cool. And yeah, man, at the end of the day, we just want the opportunities. I think that's what anybody wants. They just want the opportunities. Whether it's here, whether it's overseas, whatever it is. The only reluctance I have, and I say to a lot of fighters that they ask me about promotion, they come here and I'm like, listen, just be smart about how you go about things. You know what I mean? Don't jump into a 6-5 contract where you're going to fight once a year. I mean, that's going to be a waste of your time. You know what I'm saying? I know you're chasing more money, but at the end of the day, you're only going to one fight. It's not going to work out either way.
It's knowledge, man. It's understanding the business of MMA. Is the contract good? Is the promotion good? Where's the promotion based? There's a lot of factors that you've got to look at than just going, oh, this promotion wants me, I'm just going to sign on the dot. There's a lot to understand of, is it the right move for me or that individual?
Think about a guy like Dan Shiramudli, who's done exceptionally well with Brave. I mean, he took a fight on 24 hours notice.
Yeah, and
He was in the right time, got his contract, and he's fought like 3 or 4 times for them since. He's gone to Romania, he's fought here in his hometown. Where else did he fight? I'm sure he fought somewhere.
He's fought twice in Africa and I know one in Romania.
So, you know, like for him it's worked out really, really well. What are we looking at here, Rookie?
Yeah, I saw this fight on the UFC.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how Sandile Manigela is going to get to Bantamweight.
this fight on the UFC.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how Sandile Manigela is going to get to Bantamweight.
He's a big fella for Bantamweight.
If this, okay, so this fight's going on, definitely, I don't see how
so this fight's going on.
Yeah.
but the weight cut is, well, that's a big weight cut.
And then always Ruben's
But the weight cut
5'6".
is, well, that's a...
Yeah, he's
That's funny,
short,
eh?
dude. He's
And
very
then always
small.
Ruben's 5'6".
Ruben's like a flyweight.
Yeah.
That's short.
No, he fought JP at flyweight.
Yeah.
Ruben's like a
Shame he
flower.
fought JP at
He fought JP
amateurs and
Yeah.
get it
Shame
this
he
time.
fought JP at...
Yeah,
amateurs
he
and
came
thought,
off a
no,
good
I'll
one.
get in this
Yeah,
stuff.
dude.
You know?
Yeah, he's becoming known as the
Yeah,
leg
he
locker
came
now
off a good running back. Yeah,
in that division.
Yeah, he's
That's,
becoming known as the leg locker
Yeah, that's
now.
an interesting fight there.
In that
Everyone's
division.
talking
Colin,
about
he's back.
that's
everyone's talking
that's
about
an
this
interesting fight.
Diego Bandu.
Everyone's
Colin,
He
talking
he's
about
definitely
back.
looks the part.
Everyone's talking about this
He
Diego
can
Bandu.
hang with the big boys.
He
Is the
definitely
question.
looks the part.
Also, like, cool. Here's Mark Cumber. It's like a truck.
He's got a
Also, like,
We'll get into that card.
cool, here's Mark Cumber.
Should we fire those questions in,
I'm just
Richie?
trying to work out
We'll
how
get
I'm
into
going
that
to do this
card.
properly.
With what?
Should we
do
fire
you
those
want
questions?
I'm just trying to work out
questions.
how I'm going to do this
Will
quickly.
that help you?
With what?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to do the
Do you want
Instagram
me to
live?
read the
Outside.
Does
Dylan
that help you?
Yeah, and then I'll
Carrera just sent
Instagram.
me two great questions.
Dylan,
I know we closed the
Career just
Tell
sent
him,
me
But-
tell him sorry, no can
two
do.
great
they're
questions.
good
I know we
ones.
closed the question thing,
Tell
but
him sorry, no can do.
no, but they're good ones.
Richie, you ready to answer
Screenshot
some
those bad boys.
questions?
Yeah, let's go, buddy.
I know you love a question. People love asking questions.
Let's go, man. You love
Okay,
questions.
let's go with.
You love asking questions.
First up is BJJ Khat.
Just
Okay,
give me a sec,
let's
hold
go
on.
with
Oh, shit,
first
sorry,
up,
bro.
BJJ
Can you hurry up?
Cat.
We're going to get a
Just give me a
hashtag
sec,
waffle
hold
here
on.
if you take much longer.
Oh, shit, sorry, good. Can you hurry up? We're going to get a hashtag waffle here if you take much longer.
Oh, that
What's
guy.
happening, bro?
Just sending you a screenshot of the questions.
From Dylan.
Going onto Instagram.
Just sending you a screenshot of the questions.
From Dylan.
Going on to Instagram.
I wonder what is this Paul to Blanche, this silhouette
I wonder what is this Paul to Blanche? This
Remember that guy.
silhouette.
Did he have the fastest knockout ever a while? And then he popped for all of
Did
this.
he have the fastest knockout ever? a
Was he
while?
doing the
And then he
Maximilian
popped for
protocol?
all of the steroids.
Real.
Nobody's
Was he doing
been
the
popping more
Maximilian
steroids than my boy
protocol?
Maximilian, okay?
Okay,
Have you seen it?
Been
I
popping
read
more
about
steroids than my boy
Yeah,
Max.
I read
Don't worry,
Yeah.
we'll put it up and you just need to look at it.
I read about
Actually,
it.
it gets to a point where it starts
Don't worry,
being
we'll
action and just numbers.
Yeah, it's just
And
numbers.
it gets to a point where it starts being
Science.
actual
Yeah,
numbers.
like who
He
is
came
surprised?
to the gym a few times. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you're actually gonna still pop him out.
Yeah,
from
you're actually going to still pop them out from you being in the gym. Exactly.
Bring back Max.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sure.
live, boy.
My old Max. I love that. Bring back Max. Are we live, boy?
You guys just carry
We will carry on doing our thing. Do you know BJJ Khat?
You guys just
I'm
carry
sure
on
you
doing
do.
that.
We will carry on doing our thing.
He's from-
You know BJJ Cat.
The gym.
I'm sure you
I do.
It's got an
He's from
interesting question for you.
the gym.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
I'm happy. Jeez, bro. Thank you. What is, BJJ Khat would like to know
Yeah,
what is the
we
most
are.
underused technique in
What
MMA?
BJJ Cat would like to know.
Obviously
what is
in
the
your
most
opinion.
Underused technique.
Underused technique in MMA.
Obviously in your
Soccer
opinion.
kick.
Underused technique in MMA.
I would say
Soccer kick.
jab.
That's
I
it.
would
That's a good one.
say
Having a solid
jab.
jab. I would say, yeah.
That's it.
There-
That's a good
there's,
one.
Having a solid
off
jab.
the top of my head, there's a lot, but
A
good jab.
Off the top of my head, there's a lot, but
I
a
like
good
that.
jab.
Jab's a good one.
yeah.
It is
Ja-
probably
and-
super underused.
And
I like that. Jab's a good one.
educated
Okay,
haters.
and
Shoot button.
and
Well, there you go.
educated
Khat.
caterers.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
This is
Cat.
Maris M0309.
This is
Message for
Maris
Coach Quan.
M-
This is a good one.
0309.
Where is Norman Vessels?
Quan.
What is he up to now?
Norman
Where
Vessel.
is Norman Vessel?
He's hiding away
What
in
is
the
he up
gym.
to now?
No, he's doing amazing, hey? He's,
hiding
We've
away
got to
in
get
the
Chef
gym.
on the show.
Yeah,
actually.
you
No,
gotta get
he's
him
he's
on the
doing
show.
amazing.
You'll get
man.
some
He's,
You gotta
good
get
stuff
Chef on
from
the
that
show.
yeah, you gotta
Yeah,
get
yeah,
Chef on the show.
But
You'll
yeah,
get
he's
some-
running
some good
the kids
stuff from
program.
that guy. Yeah,
So
Chef.
and now there's
But
exploding.
yeah, he's running
gym right now.
the kids program.
He's the head
So, and
kids
that is
coach for the
exploding in our
BJJ.
gym right now.
Just
He's the
doing
head
good business,
kids
man.
coach
Um,
for the
running
BJJ.
gym really
just doing
well
good business,
and
man.
teaching
Running
and enjoying
gym
family life,
really
and
well, and
enjoying
teaching and enjoying
Martial
family
Yeah,
life.
fantastic. I
Enjoying
know people always want to know about Chef. It makes me laugh.
Martial
You definitely got to get him on the show. Ayanda Kaba, sorry if I'm butchering your name, Ayanda. Would I like this? He's like, who was your first MMA coach when you were still a fighter, and who's your favorite MMA coach currently in South Africa?
When you were still a fighter, and
Yeah.
who's your favorite MMA coach currently?
You, just say you.
In South Africa.
So I wish I had a coach that I looked up to.
So
Like,
I wish
I came
had
from Muay Thai,
coach
then from
that I
Brazilian
looked up
Jiu-Jitsu
to.
and wrestling.
I came from
So
Muay Thai,
I've had a
from
lot of
Brazilian
coaches.
Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling.
But unfortunately, a lot of my knowledge has come from studying and traveling and meeting some great coaches and some of the not known coaches that actually provide better information and athletes, and we're in the age of technology, and just getting as much information as I can. And, it actually hurts me every day because I don't have that coach that I can pick up the phone and talk to every day and speak to. So I've had quite a few people that I've trained with personally, and a lot of people that don't know me that have had good effect on my knowledge of the sport. Coaches that really I look up to right now are like in mixed martial arts, definitely a good friend of mine, Henry. He provides some great knowledge with me. Anytime that I need him, he have a chat. When I was at ATT, Mike Brown's probably one of the hardest working coaches I've ever seen. I can really get into what I saw there and all of that, and big camps versus small camps and the methodologies and stuff. But Mike Brown is that guy that does everything, and he's a hands-on coach. He doesn't sit on the mat with a whistle and a stopwatch and blows commands. He's really invested in his athletes, he's invested in his sport, and he's hands-on. He still sweats with the athletes every day. And then a guy named Shamil, he was the son of Alabek, who ran South African Wrestling, and he was with me for many years, helping with the wrestling, and he taught me a lot about the sport, and I fell in love with the sport through him. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, man, I've traveled all over the world with that, and there's a lot of coaches out there that I still study constantly every day, watching and learning, and they taught me how to study mixed martial arts. Boxing is the same, but yeah, I mean, for me, what really sticks out is what people don't understand is I study every day. I study 2, 3 to 4 hours a day, morning or evening when I get back from work or when I wake up. I got to keep on top of it, so it's not just one thing. I'm looking at a whole lot of things. I have my diaries, and for a week or a month I'm specifically looking at this technique or movement or this fighter and how he is doing X, Y, and Z. I have to figure out the sequence or the code, and it might take me a week, it might take me a month, and so knowledge is power, and we're in an age where I don't really need a specific person or one specific coach all the time. I wish I had that, for instance, like I am to some of my guys. But yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it.
Jacques van Rensburg, who do you think will be the next SA fighter to... He says UFC or Bellator, like get a big international contract. He says UFC or Bellator, like get a big international contract.
I think definitely Dricus.
Well, Dricus is still what goes down.
Yeah, but they're not the top three. We're talking about, the top three big promotions, UFC, Bellator, ONE UFC. So I would say Chad, maybe Timber, maybe Demart. They play their cards right. Ika Cabeza should also be on that list.
It's going a bit stormy here.
Off the top of my head, there probably might be more, but everyone knows who the top guys are.
There's definitely some promise.
Yeah, those are the guys that should be heading towards that, that should maybe have signed or are going to sign in the next year or two,
Matt Leishan, this is a statement more than a question, saying my question is why hasn't other media covered Richie Quan after winning his title? Ridiculous. Should be every year. And the next one is I think it's time he comes to Cape Town with Don for a training camp. Thanks, Matt.
Well, actually, I've had no media. for bringing back the first actual real world championship, but I'm used to it now. So, and in terms of that, probably will be in Cape Town soon with Don. If not, Don's in Cape Town a lot, and his gym Madfit, so you can get great training there. So yeah,
Look out, Cape Town. Shit you not, at Poovain. Hi. Okay, that's something to me. Please could you ask Rich, what has been his biggest driving factor as coach at FFM all these years? It's been amazing to see develop talent over the years. Been a fan since EFC2.
my biggest.
Your biggest driving factor as a coach, yeah.
I'm a perfectionist in a lot of things, and you know, everyone's always heard about me talking about the Kaizen theory, which is the English 1% theory. But this is what I've been born to do, and I understood this at a young age. And what drives me is not fighting, it's not competition, it's not UFC, it's martial arts.
Yeah.
I love martial arts. I could sit down and study, read, watch martial arts all day, or I could be on the mat 24 hours a day. And if you've trained with me or spoken to guys that train with me, if I could keep them on the mat 24 hours a day, I would. I'm known for saying one more 1,000 times.
10 more rounds.
Yeah, it's really, I love martial arts. That's my driving factor. I love teaching an individual. That individual can decide if he wants to be a professional athlete or an average Joe, but the information that I give him to him about martial arts and the skill set that I provide him is the same. He just decides if he wants to become a professional athlete or not. So it's more just, I'm obsessed with martial arts. Yeah.
Nice and easy. The Jundi would like to know, how do you prepare for someone who is levels above your fighter at wrestling?
Wrestle more.
I thought that would have been obvious as
Yeah.
well. Wrestle.
Simple thing. If someone's better than you in something, you got to understand what he's better at in terms of what sequences to a certain degree and what he's completing. You got to look at yourself and see, can you do the fundamental of that sport and do the exact same sequences, and then basically match it up and go, well, what sequence counters the high level sequence?
Sounds simple.
That's pretty, to me, that's pretty simple. So it's like a maths equation.
Yeah.
So
Or just don't get taken down, as the coaches would say around here.
Yeah. Stand up. Hit him.
MMA Reps would like to know philosophy on sparring frequency and intensity.
Oh, wow.
I like that. Should an amateur exclusively focus on developing their fundamentals, mitts or paddle?
Okay, so when it comes to sparring, you know, if you're in my gym for 6 months and you leave and you come back 6 months later, it's updated. I'm always improving something.
In my injury, the 7 fundamentals went to 9.
Yeah.
I'm upset.
So every month it's like a brand new refresher because of the constant finding. I'm obsessed with finding things in martial arts. And my recent trip now to California, I went to a lot of gyms. Went to roll there, train there, watch. That's what I do when I go overseas. And we went to a certain gym that didn't look like a gym when we walked in. Has some of the best high-level fighters in the world, including a UFC champ. And when I walked in, it looked like a science lab and not an actual gym. When I was talking to this coach for a while, he was basically using science equipment to understand an athlete better of when he is able to spar. What I mean by able is when his brain is prepared to spar without getting injured, and if his brain is healthy enough to spar, this will make it longevity for the career and reduce injuries. And in reality, if you have a good sparring day, your confidence is
Yeah.
increased.
Yeah.
So they have an actual machine that scans your brain, that can tell
Is it
you.
that Halo machine?
Um,
Do you know?
I think it is. I didn't
Is
actually.
it a Halo Sport? It's like a.
Yeah. So this was at an actual mixed martial arts facility,
Jeepers.
and he went into that the machine basically tells him if the individual can spar. So there's a certain professional athletes out there that are in the top 10 that are sparring once every 3 weeks. And he went into even deeper into taking hair follicles and saliva and understanding lactic acid levels, and that comes to more the conditioning side. But for me, I've always been a believer in, when we step on the mat, it's about learning and not just conditioning. For me, a lot of coaches are not actual coaches, they're fitness coaches. They're like boot camp coaches. Scream, shout, and their job is to make you tired and not to transfer knowledge, not to provide an answer to a question, not to give a result to the fighter. And why is because you have to be knowledgeable.
True.
And this is the thing is, what at a certain degree there is a place for hard sparring, especially in early development of a fighter in their fundamental years. But when they're past that, what does sparring actually teach you? So if I take a real beginner and I put them in sparring with an intermediate guy, it teaches them to be scared, or it teaches them to survive. But it doesn't give them the opportunity and the brain functionality and confidence level to let me try my jab, let me try slip punches, let me try implement this sequence, let me try implement this combination, let me try, I'm fighting a guy that's going to do X, so let me try and just do the counter to that X. Because in sparring, it becomes an ego fight. It becomes who's going to win that round, who's going to win on that day, who's going to be the alpha male. So if you change the concept and the methodology of sparring and of athletes and how they look at sparring, a sparring day, what we call a fight simulation day, I've taken the word of sparring out of my language in my gym, because how you speak is how people relate. And I call it fight simulation because if I take an individual, say like Chris, and I give Chris a highly skilled martial artist that understands their job of implementing only X, Y, and Z, and he's only doing that, that means that Chris is able to only counter and then produce a sequence against X, Y, Z, which means she's actually learning and practicing something for her specific fight. Or maybe not a fight, but to level up, to tick her boxes as a martial artist, to add a better tool. So for me, fight simulation or sparring, there needs to be a result. There needs to be an education level. And when you step on the mat for a sparring session, there needs to be a result. People need to have order.
Sure.
And yes, there is, don't get me wrong, there's a place for what we know as sparring, that hard knock sparring. But as you get higher up, and as your fighter is a higher level athlete, I believe there's less. And there's more about technical sparring, more about fight simulation, more about knowledge. For instance, if I take a guy like Don Match and I make him, oh, you must just do kickboxing sparring. His foundation was built on striking kick. So what is that going to give him? If I take a guy like BK and I make him just wrestle, he's been wrestling his whole life. If I did that with Iga, do you understand what I mean? If I take a BJJ black belt that comes to me, that's won ADCC or IBJJF or champs, and I'm just making him roll all the time, how is that actually helping him? It's not. That is his fundamental. That is what he is good at. And if you allow an athlete to spar at a free range, he's going to do only what he's good at and what's going to make him win that round, which is fine in a fight. But when you're preparing for a fight, you need to not be doing that only.
Sure.
Yeah.
Spar with a purpose.
Yeah, spar with a purpose, but it gets so much deeper into
Sure.
that, you know, and
I hear you.
you know, I can branch into a whole lot of stuff with that, but that's the question was about the hard sparring. So
Fantastic. Jeez, Dylan sent a hell of a question here. Have a question for Coach Quan. What would be the best way to get the jiu-jitsu community to be more open-minded when it comes to rolling with people from other gyms? The stigma around cross-training seems to be more of a cultural thing. I feel in the SA community, the animosity towards other gyms is honestly just there for the sake of it.
So I don't know why South Africa is going on about this BJJ. No one's coming to roll at open mat. Like, have you gone overseas, guys?
Yeah.
Overseas, do guys go all the time to open mats at other gyms? No, they don't. So I don't know where this is all coming from, and I believe it's because we're a very small community, and I believe there's people want to expose certain people.
Yeah.
So they want that to happen, you know. And if my students are comfortable rolling at my gym and don't feel the need to go somewhere else, then they shouldn't be forced. They must want to go and do that.
Yeah.
You know, but the more competitions, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions we have, the more events we get, this question will be answered, you know. But compared to a year ago, 2 years ago, I do see way more people traveling to gyms and rolling with individuals, you know. I also think there's a lot more history in our country with politics when it comes to that. So there is a lot more roadblocks. But if you compare to what's happening here to overseas, I believe people don't understand when they go overseas, people don't also integrate that much. Yeah.
Also, I think like people are, because we've had all of this like traveling sort of open mat and guys, which is a very cool initiatives.
Yeah.
I think people have forgotten what the core essence of an open mat is. It's for your gym, the entire gym to roll together. Because I mean, you explained to me once, like you've got morning class, you've got an evening class, you've got an afternoon class. Half these guys don't even know each other. Never even seen each other. Half the time I'd rock up at 11 and like some people wouldn't even know who I was because I'm there at 12 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like in the trenches where nobody's there. So it's kind of like to bring your gym together, to let everybody roll together. It's not like this massive open invitation. Every Saturday morning you're like, geez, I hope somebody comes from wherever, you know what I mean? Like that's not actually what it is. But I do get where
I also think people just need to invite people. Call them, message them, invite them. If you want that certain individual or that certain gym to come to you, invite them. I actually go to as many open mats as I can, but I'm literally working from 6 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night.
Sure.
So for me to go to an open mat sometimes is unavailable. But when I can, like in December, I went to a few different schools for the open mat. And that's just to go and reconnect with other coaches and show people that maybe what you thought of me or the gym or what you've heard is not actually really what it is. So, yeah, I don't actually think it's a big deal. I do think it's getting better.
Yeah. Definitely is. You also want to say, what does he think about the tempo someone should roll at? If you compete, should you be rolling at 100% every time you train, or obviously go with training partners hard with others, slow with others?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've got my way and understanding of things is the same way. It's about how the brain learns. It's got nothing to do, if I was teaching a wrestler or a boxer, it's how the brain learns. So exactly like I spoke about with the sparring, it's very simple. Like, you still need those hard rounds and you still need to go 110%, but you also need to be rolling with a guy that's also just under you. So when you're rolling, you are basically drilling and able to apply or try to apply a certain technique in a live situation. So if I'm rolling with a black belt or dangerous purple belt, I'm going to go 100%, but I'm also going to roll with a purpose. Not caring if I get tapped or not tapped. This is what training is about. You're not rolling on at an open mat or competition, or your mindset hasn't stepped on the mat going, oh, I just want to win. That's different. Stepping on the mat saying, oh, I just want to play Delhiva with everyone. Or stepping on the mat saying, I want to play Delhiva in this certain sequence, but I'm going to have 2 or 3 rounds with the highest level guys, so I get that super hard rounds, but out of 10, the next 7, I'm going to roll with blue belts and try and just implement only that. The problem is ego. You with a blue belt and you're trying to implement Delhiva and a certain armbar or back take from that guard, and now this blue belt's starting to pass or give you a go, so you revert back to what you're good at because it will make you win.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. And that's the questions, Rocky, so your arms can breathe a sigh of relief.
Oh, there's one more, yeah.
Is there?
There was only like
Just
4
popped up.
questions. I thought you said there was a lot.
There's like 10 there, Rich.
Oh, man.
What's that one? That just come through now.
Yeah, on Instagram Live. Warren's one is more just an insult for me.
No, there's a surprise.
Well, where is Warren?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Null spreads.
Bailed on us. Bastard.
Poor guy.
Thanks, Warren.
What's your biggest win as a coach in your coaching career?
That big win hasn't come. I have great moments in my life. I have guys like Gareth winning his first UFC fight, the first one in South Africa. I have Don Madge having that performance bonus knockout. I have the Chris Cyborg. I have BK winning at 1FC. I have Chad winning at Brave. JP winning at Brave. Like, there's so many. I have 15 EFC title fights that we won. Like, there's so many. There's Boyd Allen and we're winning our boxing title. Like, every moment is good because every moment is the best moment for that athlete, which becomes the best moment for me. So I'm also so young still. My best moment hasn't come yet.
Fantastic. Any more?
That's it.
Let's wrap on those questions.
Everyone's telling me my
Fantastic.
camera is shaky.
Yeah, because biceps are burning there, but boy. Hi, Instagram.
Tripod sponsors, hit us up.
Well, bro, there's about 4 tripods here. Had we known, we could have just sorted you out.
That's my way. Cool.
What I wanted to ask you was, you had a very short fighting career.
Yeah.
Did you know quite early on that the fighting side wasn't really for you and the coaching was more where you wanted to be?
When I was younger, I had a view, and it's different when I'm older now. If I look at my younger self, I've actually always been bred to be a coach.
Sure.
But when I was younger, I always said, well, I fell into coaching and I didn't really want to be a coach or something I just fell in love with.
Yeah.
But as I think now on events that happen in my life, I always believe now that the direction that I was going and the events that always happen pushed me and made me who I am today. I believe competing in a sport was just about knowing how hot the fire was, that I've actually touched it. Wasn't about me wanting to be the best or having that dream.
Yeah.
I think that dream has always actually been to be a coach, an educator. Since I was young, I've always loved that type of education. I've always wanted to understand things differently from the normal ways of understanding things, and I think that all pushed me into being a coach and understanding how to be a better coach and professor or teacher, or whatever we want to say.
Professor Quan.
And martial arts has always been in my blood since I can never remember.
Some people say because it's Asian blood.
Well, some people are just born with great blood and
great shoe fashion sense.
Why are you?
I love your shoes, Rich.
These are
you know I
barefoot
love
shoes.
them.
They're good for your feet. Since you have ogre feet,
My-
I will recommend
Do
you
they come in
a
size
shoe.
49? Listen, what I want to ask you is, my fear with those shoes
Yeah.
always is that I always seem to think that if you're walking outside on a hot day, that those shoes are just going to become part of your foot. They just look like they're just going to melt.
Have they melted?
No, they haven't, but that's my fear.
That just Listen, let's.
But I like them. You can go off-road, on-road, water, dry.
These shoes are the
snow.
best shoes ever, buddy.
No,
He
Every
uses
time
them
you see
for-
them, you tune me about my shoes.
I throw respect on those shoes.
Barefoot shoes are the way to go.
Rich doesn't have 2 hands and 2 feet. He's got 4 hands.
Octopi.
Those give
What do you call
maximum
me?
levels of the spider bear.
Spider bear.
Got the pressure of a bear and the limbs of a spider.
Pressure is king.
If you've
Pressure is
ever,
king.
yeah,
You know what?
he grabs you with his chin.
I know it's ridiculous. One day he was showing me something. He had me in side control, and then I realized he had his hands behind his back, and I couldn't get out. I was like, "What is this?"
No, that was because
That's
you're
just-
overweight and you couldn't sit up.
That's the spider
No,
bear.
that might have been one of the factors. Bastard, cut me deep. I think I want to ask you, how, as a coach, there's obviously a numerous amount of guys that walk through your doors. How have you ever been in a situation where you've
Oh wow.
where you've known, firstly, this person is going to go far, and you've known, secondly, this person is not going to go far, and how hard is that to still carry on with them, and thirdly, to know this person needs to be the fuck out of this
Bro, I
job.
think Chef and I can have we'll write a book one day.
I certainly
of
hope
the
so.
people that come through and the stories we have. But okay, so the question: are we talking about an individual that walks through my door that I know, that I've seen, that is in our sport, or is this a brand new
No,
person?
I'm talking about fighters. I'm talking about
Okay,
fighters.
yeah.
So obviously, as a coach, you know, in your heart of hearts, and knowing you how you are with people, I don't know if you're gonna be like, listen, mate, this gig's not for you. Get on out of here.
So, in the country, I'm like I said, I'm a nerd when it comes to martial arts.
Just a nerd. Full
I'm
stop.
a nerd, full stop. So, if an individual from another camp or from mixed martial arts walks to my door, I probably really understand and know what they're capable of. So yes, I could probably say this person can make it or can't make it, you know. But a lot of factors come into to that answering that question, and I don't even have to look at the guy right now. I ask him, "How old are you? Do you have a passport? Can you get visas?"
Yeah. What color is your
You know,
passport?
Literally, these are questions that dictate a lot of things.
So your current mindset with fighters is, we want to get you overseas as, not as fast as possible, but in terms of a fighting career, as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You need to know you got to go through step A, B, C, D, and end up here. From the outset, can we get you there?
Yeah. So yeah, and it's like a guy walks through my door. He's been on the circuit. I already know who he is, so I can understand the skill set he comes. But I would want to know his history of what sports did he play. Did he not play sports? Because that's a problem. Did he come from contact sports? Did he not? Did he come from martial arts as a youngster? Did he not? Is he 32 or is he 18 or 16? Yeah. Is he from Congo and or Nigeria, where it's going to be a problem of having a visa? You know, does he have a passport? Does he have a visa? No, all of these things come into play when the time comes that you've got to pull the trigger. And when it comes, people forget about these things. You know, I can make a guy that's 35 and doesn't have a passport an EFC champion. Cool. Then what? Because that's just one step of the journey. Are we looking, is your journey, that's why I ask guys, is your journey just EFC? Or is your journey just to compete in UFC? Or is your journey to be top 15 in the UFC? Or is your journey to be world champ? Because all of those answers require certain requirements. And if you don't tick those boxes, unfortunately, I'm going to give you the hard truth and tell you it.
Yeah, 100%.
But in terms of people walking through the door, the best person you guys need to get on here is Chef.
Yeah, we need to
I mean,
set that up.
the stories that he told me just this morning about guys going, I want to fight the UFC, and I'm going to be I'm going to be the world champion, and then the next one will be like, but why do I have to pay for fees? I'm going to fight.
I'm gonna be the world champion.
I'm going to be world champion, you know. And I'm sure you've heard of the one where a guy said like, Chef said, okay, come through and try some sparring out. And his reply was, which spar must I go to?
Broadacres, pal.
Yeah.
They make a hell of a
I've
carrot cake.
I've heard stories of, I think Warren told me about it the one time a dude came onto the mat wearing a black belt.
Oh yeah, we've had many of those.
Really?
Yeah.
The judo oaks are the worst, but they
Yeah.
you can feel them dying next to you.
Yeah.
And they walk in there, like, I remember the one day in Lobo, there was a judo black belt who arrived, and like Jamie was taking the class, and Jamie, like, and everyone's lined up, and like in front of everyone, he's like, sorry sir, like, I know this is gonna be interesting, but I need you to put on a white belt because this is jiu-jitsu, it's not judo. Last time I saw that guy.
It's funny.
But it's hectic, dude.
I allow them to keep. I
Struggle.
allow to, if it's their first time and they're only coming maybe for an open mat,
Yeah.
or they're just coming for one session, I actually just keep it. Let them keep it on. By the end of the session, they usually take it off. So
Yeah, I've seen the actually
no,
happened.
please don't do this.
It actually happened to me at a Lovo once. The one time I was rolling, and I think he might have come back a bit more often.
Never. Now, listen. Here's some advice, kids. Never open your legs just to prove love.
No, this group is my
what do we?
favorite.
What do we?
This is a
watching here?
hijacked EFC fans group,
Oh wow.
Oh wait,
but
wait,
there's some good shit on here. Drop them on a
wait.
boring.
There's some good ones here.
where the dudes ask about being a fighter or something.
How
like,
can
oh,
I?
it's great.
Yeah, it's like how can I EFC? I'm an ex-stick fighter.
Yeah.
I've got
Don't-
what it takes
guys,
to be champ.
I'm telling you, I can write a book. Chef's got all the stories. He's got the text messages. He's got the emails of all of that.
Here we go. I know. Yeah, this thing's been hijacked, but it's been so full of cuck. Shout out to Guy Jitsu throwing in a little punt there. The other side I wanted to ask you is how hard is it to have, and I know in recent memory you've actually had one or two of these situations, have a guy in the team who's just like bad energy.
Oh wow.
You know, like
So we're going down there.
we don't have to, I just want to know, like, because sometimes even from
there's
my
poi-
outlook,
if
I'm just
there's-
like,
if there's one
this is
poison
tough.
person, they will poison the whole mat. That's
and
just
it's not because it's the way they're making other people react to them. You know what I'm saying? So
it's about
a strange thing.
about their view on the situation, the environment, their view on the individuals. It doesn't have to be right. It could be right, but it's their view that then they poison their teammates, their tribe, their community into believing or to understanding those point of views, you know, without them making their own decisions and choices. So yeah, I mean, I've seen it not only in my gym. I've learned a lot about that through my gym, but traveling in all gyms. If there's a bad apple, it's 110% going to poison the rest of the apples. If you don't cut that, it's going to become a problem, and you might want to forget about it, and it might not pop out immediately, but it is eventually going to do damage.
It's a tough dynamic.
Yeah.
What actually made me think about that was I'm gonna forget it. I don't even know why I'm like this. My brain sometimes just like, fuck you, bro. The coach at City Kickboxing, Berman, what's his name?
Yeah, Eugene.
Eugene. I think I see a lot of similarities between City Kickboxing and you guys.
Yeah.
Massive similarities, especially between him and you.
So what would be the difference?
Yeah,
Okay, you know what it is.
Yeah.
It's opportunity.
sure.
And it's that the UFC and bigger promotions have been in those countries. It's a country also that has more support to these athletes. There's so much, but when I watch and study that gym and his fighters and him himself, it reminds me a lot of FFM, old FFM
Immensely.
days, big time. And I believe that if the old FFM days were put into now or put into their situation, I would have 3-4 world champions in every organization, just like SPG. The same, we could talk about the same thing, because they were like that.
Yeah.
And I would say SPG now is at its peak and kind of coming down, where City Kickboxing is climbing and it's going to hit it hasn't even hit its peak yet. So
So, and he was, I was watching that UFC Connected. It's brilliant. It's like 6 or 7 minutes. It's the first bit of the latest one. And it's about city kickboxing. And Eugene's talking about how people always go on about mixed martial arts being an individual sport, and he's like, it's completely wrong because we are 100% a team here. And it's like shows a little clip of him, like a class going on, and Israel Adesanya arriving late, and you can see Israel is like scared in a way, you know what I mean? Obviously, like that respect of his coach, and to see someone like Adesanya in that, and he's like, you're late, and he's like being dead fucking serious. He's not happy about it. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm not. And he's like, okay, 5 minutes. He's like, so you're late. You know what I mean? Like, just that.
It's culture.
Yeah.
It's culture.
Yeah.
It's regardless of who's in the gym and who's on the mat. A world champion or an amateur. A guy that earns $100 million or a guy that earns $200. On that mat, everyone must be equal. And it's a big mistake that I also had to learn and understand that you can't change that. That must be the culture. And the day you change that is the day you introduce problems.
Yeah.
Every athlete starts at the bottom and rises to the top. And how they rise should be the same for everyone. And if it's not, then they don't believe in the system.
Sure.
Because if it's different for him, why is it different for me? You understand what I mean? And also it builds that respect. Like you said, you can actually see the best middleweights in the world is actually going like, sorry, coach.
You're on one of the biggest MMA stars in the world.
100%.
So where my mind went immediately when I was watching it, and then shortly after that, Kai France comes out, and there's, I mean, him. There was a whole thing. He went to fight in the UFC and actually came back and delivered Brad Goodell his contract for the UFC in front of his whole team, and with a fucked up face went to train with the team. And he talks about giving your body to the next person that's getting ready for a fight, and this whole they've got a massive thing there. And what I was thinking about is I've been fortunate enough to see you guys in that golden spot, and I've also seen bad apples in there and seen how everybody suffers around it. You know what I'm saying? And it made me think, and I've always been the guy, it's the individual. When you get in the cage, you know, your coaches are there, that gives you confidence and stuff. But it's, you know,
it's bullshit, because
it's quite a crazy thought.
Your most important asset is your training partner and coach.
Sure.
And you know, there has to be a culture of understanding that these are the rules. You help each other for camps. You are there. You know, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
As soon as you change that, you introduce problems.
And we all want to achieve for the collective. I think that's a big one. Yeah. Like, we all want each other to do well.
So
I think that's a big thing. Yeah.
Let's throw a spanner in the works. If Alessandro Stylebender changed his culture and didn't help his teammates, where would City kickboxing be today?
Yeah, it's true.
See, the responsibility goes from generation to generation. You know, the generation or the individual that is at the top, his responsibility is to empower his lower generation, his teammates.
Teach the culture.
And teach the culture. Not only that, empower them with, here is a UFC contract.
Yeah.
I worked hard. You helped me train hard. You helped me win. I won, but we won as a team because the reward is I'm getting and now you getting. But as soon as one top individual stops that mindset, that's when the problems get introduced.
Fantastic. Rocky, got anything else for the Professor Quan?
No, I don't think we have any more questions.
That's
Nothing.
good.
Jeez, like.
Good questions.
You said you had like 30 questions. You
I
asked
never
me
said
4.
that. I said a lot.
I don't believe you either.
No.
I'm gonna have a look here.
You guys. Guys can't count.
I can count, definitely.
Mm-mm.
You know, the thing is, I do actually have to cut it off eventually, because then we're going to start answering
But
weird and
what
strange
you
questions.
said there was actually interesting. You said like everyone's got to step on the mat and be the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 12 o'clock class is exactly that. You can jump on the mat at 12 o'clock at FFM with UFC, Bellator, 1FC superstars, and they're all trained.
In a culture, there can be hierarchy,
Mm.
but the culture needs to stay the culture. The rules and regulations stay the same, but there will always. It's just like in the military. There's rules and regulations, but there is a hierarchy. But to climb that hierarchy, everyone climbs the same way.
Yeah.
As soon as someone changes that path and takes a shortcut into a different hierarchy level, that's the issue start.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's it then, boy. It's been
Don't
surreal. Don't hunt questions. Do us one more favor. Let's show Richie the Maximilian protocol, bro.
Are
Quickly.
we talking about this though?
No.
No.
I'm not
We
worried
love
about
this
this just yet. We'll get there. Why? Well, how do you see? We can just touch on the quick. How do you see Temba Garimbo versus Lal Karim going?
Timber will beat him. Yeah. I would
Do you
say.
think he'll grind it out? A lot of people seem to think he'll grind it out, or do you
Nah,
think
I think
he'll still finish it?
he'll get a finish. I would say in round 3 or 4. Yeah.
Bet your house.
Yeah. Last time that happened, Warren cost people their houses.
Yeah, we're not great at making bets
What are
on
we
the
looking
show.
at now?
We're going to show you the Maximilian protocol.
Oh.
We're going to check your science. This gets interesting.
Okay.
Can you see everyone like how people pop for like one thing or like one thing
Yeah.
and something else?
Wow. Jeez.
Just take a look at that. I can't even say these
Now,
words.
the thing is, do you take I think there must be 15 substances there. Like, do you not think you're in a sport that you test? Do you not think any of this would? I just don't understand.
Here's my theory, and hopefully no one from the gym listens to what I'm saying. I suspect, well, the collective of this podcast suspects that his gym is they just juice to the gills.
You mean UDF?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, we've said it many
Instagram
times.
page is like a bodybuilding
it's awesome.
site.
It's IBJJF.
Awesome.
So I think that the culture in that gym is, and they compete with it, don't test. I think Max either A, didn't give a shit, or B, just assumed that coming out to South Africa, nobody's going to test you. You
yeah.
can just do
Probably
what you
thought
want.
that. Oh, it's Africa.
Yeah.
No, we
And
get a lot of
actually,
that.
when he saw Africa, he decided he's going to add substance 7 through 10 on.
Yeah,
Because fuck me.
that's
What I
ridiculous.
worry about is what does this oak's liver look like?
that's a paragraph. That's a legit.
And you know
paragraph.
what's
I love
funny
it,
about
eh?
all of us? It didn't help him.
No.
Not even
Well,
a
it
small
helped him.
amount.
It helped him absorb a bit more punishment, I
Yeah,
reckon.
he's a big boy with no brains, unfortunately.
Oh, Max, we love him. Anyways, lads, I think that's a
Ran
wrap.
for an hour and 40 minutes. Not
Yeah.
bad.
Fantastic, Mr. Quan. Thank you for your time as always. Appreciate it. We'll catch you soon. Make sure you hit subscribe. Peace.